people seem pretty anxious about being able to find a job that they're passionate about. This is one of the big things now, I think, where a lot of people really feel like if you're doing some kind of work, it needs to be meaningful, which I think is great. But there's also sometimes an expectation that that should come really soon. So for you, as you're graduating and as you're evaluating your options and things like that, how do you think about your prospects, and what was the driving force behind how you're going to make your decisions?
I think it can be a mistake. Not always, but it can be a mistake to think that your job is supposed to be fulfilling. It is very possible for you to have a job that is satisfactory and non-combative or non-stress inducing, and have the rest of your time be where your passion comes from. So you shouldn't be in a job that you're miserable. You shouldn't be in a job that is, for lack of a better term, dead end, and we can kind of explore that later. But your job doesn't have to be like sunshine roses and all be all, because there's probably a lot of things out there that you can do to make better money and use that money to do something that you're very passionate about otherwise. So I don't know how it's going to play out. I know there are jobs that I had that I found ways to learn something. I think if you're learning something on the job, it can be fulfilling. That doesn't mean that necessarily that you're replanting all the trees in Northern California that got killed by the fires. I mean, you don't have to have so much of a direct satisfaction with the job that you're doing, that there isn't ways to still find happy influences. You find people to mentor, people to learn from. You learn how business works. Sometimes being unentertained is one of the best ways to actually learn something, because you have to find a way to survive in spite of the circumstance you're in. It's a fortitude making.
That's actually super interesting. So can you dig into that? So can you just repeat what you said?
Sometimes, like when you tell kids, I'm going to take away your toys, I'm going to take away your devices and stick you outside. Well, at first they kind of, go through sort of a really unattractive trembling sensation because they are now unattached to the Wi-Fi. But then you give them some sticks and you just basically say you're going to stay outside. And then once the panic of not being connected to their friends wears off, they actually find things to do that are pretty interesting, and they learn about bugs, and they learn about, weeds, and they learn about other things that are just essential outside things. And I would argue the same thing happens when you are in a job that doesn't exactly appeal to everything you've ever wanted, because a job is not a fun, and I'm using that kind of as a noun. A job is a job. You are there to help that company make money. If you don't like what they do, obviously don't consider working for a company that ultimately is against your moral values or whatever. But almost every job has opportunities for you to learn and opportunities for you to give back, or they wouldn't have hired you. You're bringing something really awesome to the company. So you just when you get there, get a lay of the land, find out the people that you should be drafting. Get your network going. Drafting in that case meaning, like, who do you find that's got a good accelerant in front of them already? What are they doing well? How are they behaving? How are they being rewarded? What kind of things do people say about that person when they're not in the room? If that's what you also want to be, find a way to chat with that person. Buy them coffee, go for walks with them, volunteer on their projects that they're being assigned to if you're able to. Because anytime you can just pick up and learn from someone who is in that same rodeo just a touch ahead of you, then you're adding to the number of arrows in your quiver that you can take and move forward. Like I said, stuff I learned as a waitress, I'm still using today when I talk to humans and I watch their face. I see what they're worried about and try to help them.